Outlining his plans for reciprocal tariffs on a country-by-country basis, saying that reviews should be complete by April 1st, but beyond that, no real clear date as to when they would take effect. Joining us now to discuss is Tina Fordham, geopolitical strategist and founder at Fordham Global Foresight, typically in London, but here in New York with us. And I know that you've been traveling across the U.S. You were in Washington not so long ago. So a reprieve for the markets for now and for other countries as well, too. What do those countries do in the meantime as they prepare for the possibility of reciprocal tariffs as early as April 1st?
Just thinking about the word you used, reprieve. This is an example, I think, this pronouncement, but for a date in the future, of what a term we used to use talking about Putin, which is escalate to de-escalate. And so that's how I see this. This is rhetoric that kind of tries to set a new tone, a shot over the bow. How can anyone prepare? They can't prepare. I did a roundtable yesterday with 10 CEOs. They did not know whether they should buy supplies 3 months in advance, 6 months in advance, how to parse these statements. They're not used to having to do that. And these were US CEOs. In Europe, where I'm based, there is utter confusion about what the intention is. What is this designed to bring about?
And right now, no one knows the answers to those questions.
No. Do they know the answers to these questions?
It's a good point. So companies talk about the need to de-risk China, and we've seen that take place over the last couple of years. Is the rest of the world de-risking the U.S.? Is that even possible to do?
Well, this is a concept that we've been throwing around at Fordham Global Foresight because, I mean, of course, the U.S. is the biggest consumer market in the world. No other market will be able to replace the U.S. And so it's a kind of a different concept, really, which is do we say former U.S. allies start to work around the U.S. at the country level because the U.S. is increasingly seen as an unreliable partner. We certainly see that at the firm level, where, of course, you're trying to diversify your risk, whether it's supply chains, tariffs, taxes. It's now a much more complicated equation.
It is a complicated equation, but haven't countries been trying to do this basically since the first Trump administration? Not necessarily with success, but we've seen some attempts at creating more regional alliances and just trying to find a way to be less dependent on the world's largest economy.
I would say that even though Europe, for example, has been on notice for some time about things like increasing defense spending, the idea that the peace dividend is well and truly dead has still been slow to dawn. And we've got German elections in a little over a week's time, where the German government has been very slow to want to spend on the military. And now the likely next German chancellor, Friedrich Merz, is in the very uncomfortable position of having to contemplate increasing spending. And this, Europe doesn't grow like the U.S. We can't. Finding the money magically to go to 3 to 4% is going to result in a lot of European governments collapsing.
When you're talking to people and you're doing your research, though, do countries see some incentive in trying to court Trump? Meaning, is there something that they can offer him to not only just get them off their back for 30 days, but to get them off their back for the next 4 years?
Of course, that's what we saw, the parade, of supplicants to Mar-a-Lago. I'm not the first person to suggest this is kind of an imperial presidency. In fact, I think I said on another Bloomberg show that this is the sucking up phase to Trump. But take a concrete example, Keir Starmer in the UK. Trump has said he likes Keir Starmer, even though he's the head of a center-left government. This is a problem for Starmer when he goes to the UK-EU summit dinner last week in Brussels because he's teacher's pet.
Well, let me just rephrase the question. Is there alignment between these nations at all? I'm just talking in terms of ideology. I mean, I know there's personal relationships that are going to dictate a lot of how Trump deals with them, but is there any sort of ideological alignment from the major economies?
Ideology, no, I would not say. I think that countries are trying to avoid collateral damage or a direct hit from these tariffs because they are such a blow. So the VAT remarks from Trump today will hurt the UK massively. This friendly country that Trump had said, the UK is a much smaller trade balance problem
Right.
compared to others, but it does issue VAT. So no one understands how they can get on the kind of the right side of Washington right now.
You said something that was pretty provocative, the possibility of European governments collapsing. Just to take the other side of that, what are the odds that Europe comes out of this Trump era stronger, in a more competitive position, less regulation, more productive, even as they're spending more on the military and other things that they hadn't quite accounted for?
So as much as we're in the midst of this kind of bewildering maelstrom of policies and a change in stance from the U.S., I do think that there is upside potential. You would be a fool to say that Europe has been doing everything right. It is ossified. It does overregulate. It doesn't promote competitiveness in the way that it should. If shaking things up helps bring that about, then that's a great result. I remember that Bob Rubin, when I was at Citi, used to call me and say, Tina, what's happening in the museum economies of Europe? And, that's still not a wrong comment.
Yeah. Just only about 30 seconds, but I have one quick question, and this is about India and its role in all of this. It's done a relatively deft job in trying to navigate through this. It's made friends with China. It seemingly has a friendship with Trump and the U.S. administration as well. Is
Russia
it
as well,
one
too.
of the few countries that is actually doing this right?
Well, no, because Trump issued this announcement hours before he welcomed Modi to the White House, and India will be hit by this. So it's very uneven, and it's not clear how it will shake out. This is an experiment in real time in global politics and economic policy.
Well, it's keeping us all busy. Tina, I have to leave it there. Tina Fordham, geopolitical strategist and founder at Fordham Global Foresight.
All right, let's take a look